until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GBNews, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, it's 9:30 a.m. on Friday the 28th of November. Live across the United Kingdom, this is Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, is it time for another U-turn?
I'm very proud of the Employment Rights Bill and our plan to make work pay. We now introduce for amendments today sick pay for over 1 million workers from day one, rights from day one.
Well, the Prime Minister has now dropped those day one sacking safeguards in Angela Rayner's Workers' Rights Bill. Another U-turn, another manifesto breach?
And we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country.
Donald Trump pledges to permanently pause migration from what he calls all third world countries, just hours after a female soldier is shot and killed by an Afghan man in Washington, D.C.
Elsewhere, a former government minister tells Chopper's political podcast that Britain should replace God Save the King as the national anthem. And here's why.
This national anthem excludes people who are Republicans and excludes people, by the way, who don't believe in God. And that's wrong. We should have a national anthem everybody's very proud of.
There's been an exodus of young aspirational workers leaving Britain. We'll look at the reasons why and where they're going.
Well, the French President Emmanuel Macron stands with troops as he announces voluntary military service in the face of growing global threats. Do we need something similar here in Britain to boost our armed forces?
Well, stay tuned if you want to hear my Trump impression, because we're going to have a lot of Donald Trump today, aren't we? He has sensationally declared that he's going to pause migration from all third world countries. But you know what's really rattled the lefties today, Miriam?
The use of the third world term?
It certainly is.
Isn't it interesting? Because when I was growing up, that was the accepted terminology. Yeah. First world countries, highly developed, second world developing, third world still unindustrialised. But like a lot of language around diversity and equality, that's no longer acceptable.
This is the thing, isn't it? They're more worried about the words feeling rather than the consequences of immigration from some of those countries. What do you think third world country means? That's a really good question. I'd really love to hear some of you write into us today and tell us that, because I think Donald Trump is making the right decision. I think many Americans are going to back this, and he's not sort of pointing out specific countries at the moment. He's just saying we need to review this. We certainly do.
But I think what he's put his finger on is that culture matters, and in that long tweet, which is full of rhetoric and lots of people will object to, he does talk about what is compatible with Western civilization, and we do have certain values in the West that aren't necessarily shared in other countries in the world, and that's fine. Other countries can run themselves how they wish to do so. But there is a serious question about whether certain views and values are actually compatible with our society and what we should do about that.
And there's more in that tweet as well, so we're going to share that with you very, very shortly. So stay tuned and send your views and comments into gbnews.com/your say. But first, your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you. The top stories. The Labour government's facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. It comes a day after the Afghan national is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C., one of whom sadly died. An NHS screening programme for prostate cancer could come one step closer if it's backed today by a key committee that advises the government. Authorities confirm they have wrapped up firefighting operations at the site of the huge Hong Kong fire, and we have just found out in the last few minutes that the death toll has now risen to 128. Questions are turning to how the blaze started. Those are the headlines for now. More at 10 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, Labour has ditched its flagship plan to give workers the right to claim unfair dismissal from day one.
The qualifying period will now be 6 months, and this marks a direct challenge to Labour's left and a big change from Angela Rayner's original pledge.
It's another U-turn, isn't it? Business Secretary Peter Kyle here is explaining the changes.
We have announced as part of our manifesto that we would have day one rights, and many of those rights remain in place. So sick pay and paternity leave, for example, will remain after the bill goes through Parliament as day one rights. But employers said that they had difficulty with having day one rights for access to tribunals for unfair dismissal. After 6 months, tribunal rights will kick in for unfair dismissal. So that is coming down from 2 years to 6 months, which is a big concession for employers in this country, and it is moving from day one to 6 months, which is a big concession for the unions.
Now, Alex, we'll dig into the details of this policy in a minute, but I think the politics of this are really interesting because lots of people agree that the budget was all about pleasing the Labour left, the ditching of the two-child benefit cap, the mansion tax, and for 24 hours, Labour's backbenchers were happy. But now in ditching this or watering down the Employment Rights Bill, surely they're going to open up that political split again.
I mean, it's a headless government, isn't it? It can't sort itself out whether it wants to be stuck on the left, go to the right, and therefore it's completely divided. This is a similar thing that happened to the Tories at the end of their last government, but it did take them 14 years to get there. But this, in my opinion, is another manifesto breach. 2 in the space of 24 hours. One from the budget and one yesterday with this workers' rights U-turn. You just can't make it up, can you? You can't make it up.
And yet you could argue that at least they have listened to business owners who are saying this will drive up unemployment, this will disincentivise us from employing anybody. I mean, at least they have listened. But, yeah, it's going to make things politically hard.
But, again, too little, too late. So many businesses would have been factoring this in. Yeah. And, again, it's going to impact business confidence in Britain, the amount of people who want to invest. 6 months, I actually think it's not a bad idea. I think 6 months is far better than 2 years, and I think it makes sense. But there we have it.
Well, we're joined now in the studio by the editor of the Sunday Telegraph, Alistair Heath. Good morning, Alistair.
Morning.
Welcome. It's not been the best of weeks for economic news, but let's start with this Employment Rights Bill. Are you relieved at the decision that Keir Starmer's taken?
Well, from a free market perspective, this is much less bad than what the government previously wanted to do, but there's still a big shift towards interventionism and regulation, right? We're talking about major extensions of red tape and of restrictions which will make it less likely that employers want to hire workers because they'll be much more scared. It'll be difficult to get rid of them if things go wrong. So, yes, this is a major U-turn, a major embarrassment for the government. It's going to trigger warfare within the Labour Party because, as we've seen, we've just had a left-wing, very, very left-wing budget to appease these left-wing MPs, to try and gain votes back from the Greens who are surging, all that kind of stuff. And suddenly you've got this totemic U-turn. My point simply is, from an objective perspective, I'm not exactly delighted by this because I still think the situation is getting worse for free markets. But obviously, for the Labour Party, this is going to be toxic.
Alistair, is the problem here that the government doesn't really have an ideology to go behind? I mean, the left are quite clear on what they're demanding. They want, of course, a lot of these bills to go through. Angela Rayner was really the left-wing darling in the government, wasn't she? She's gone now. Is it a case that actually they are now a centrist-style left-wing government, but without that further left voice at the top there to appease that side of the party?
I think we are moving to the left in this country. The Labour Party is a socialist party once again. We're seeing the kinds of policies we last saw in the 1970s, real hatred of wealth, taxes just on rich people for the sake of hurting these people, higher and higher marginal tax rates, millions of people being dragged into higher tax rates all over the place, a tidal wave of regulation. But the problem is the government knows that this is inside itself. There are people within the government who realise that, of course, this is very damaging for the economy, and we're just going to have an economy that's just more and more sluggish. And so every so often you see a bit of a fight back from the sort of centrist people, and that is obviously what's happened now with this partial U-turn on labour market regulation, on this workers' rights bill. But nonetheless, the drift is only in one direction, right? It's to the left. You're talking about a 4 percentage points of GDP increase in the tax share. You know, it's massive. You know, this government, in this manifesto, said it would increase taxes by £8.5 billion. Quite a lot, but restricted. That would be it, you know, just 8.5 billion. They were going to go for private schools, they were going to go for private equity, but nothing else. That was already quite bad, I thought, but never mind. Now, over 2 budgets, you've had a £70 billion or so tax increase. It's a monumental increase in taxes, and it's a complete breach of the spirit of the manifesto, in addition to actual breaches of the manifesto on a range of issues.
And the only vision that seems to have driven this budget was the vision to please the OBR. And yet even the OBR admits that the tax rises are actually going to come later in the Parliament as people are dragged into the higher tax bands as a result of inflation. But can you see a government in its last year in office actually going ahead with those kind of tax rises?
No, so I think it's quite I think it's quite implausible that we see the degree of tax increases in the last year of the budget that the government is promising. So far, the financial markets have bought it. The financial markets are only interested in, are you going to balance the budget, you know, or move towards balancing the budget, and has that been signed off by the OBR? The answer is yes, the OBR has signed that kind of stuff off, but I think there are very severe question marks about the credibility of a lot of this stuff, and that's even before, you know, shocks hit the economy, or these stupid labour market regulations further reduce growth, or the taxes further reduce growth. So I think it's quite precarious, despite these massive tax increases, and I'm sure that the Chancellor will come back to increase, or whoever's Chancellor next time, I doubt I doubt it'll be Rachel Reeves, will come back and have to raise taxes again.
Who benefits from this politically? Is it Kemi Badenoch and the Conservative Party? Is it Nigel Farage and Reform? Because, of course, the chaos of this budget is going to move voters to different parties to lend their support. Who do you think is going to be the winner out of all of this?
It's possible that the Conservatives might be the biggest of the winners. That's possible. They're quite good at talking about welfare cuts and the need to restrict welfare. I think they've had a better language on that than Reform. I think Reform slightly fall into the trap of being slightly old-fashioned on benefits, by which I mean a few years ago, the public was becoming more and more pro-welfare, pro-spending. But over the past year, there's been a big shift away from believing in welfarism. So more and more members of the public realise something's gone terribly wrong with the welfare state. You've got 6.5 million people on out-of-work benefits. This is a major, major scandal. And this budget is all about taxing people who work, the most productive people in society, to fund people who are on welfare. That's deeply unfair, and I think more and more people are realising that. I think the Conservatives have been slightly better than Reform at pointing that out over the last few months, so that might benefit them. But at the same time, even though the government's massively shifting to the left, the sorts of U-turns we've just seen on labour rights muddies the waters. And Labour's big threat is a Green Party, which has exploded. It's got a charismatic, populist left-wing leader, and I'm not sure that any of this is actually going to stop the rise of the Green Party. So Labour is being squeezed here between at least 3 or 4 different forces.
Some commentators are comparing our current situation to the 1970s, when taxes were high, there were lots of strikes, there was this sense of stagnation. And actually, when the immigration figures were published yesterday, the most recent time that many people left the country was, in fact, in the 1970s. Now, of course, Thatcher came in, changed the economy quite substantially. But now we have so many more people dependent on the state than even back there in the 1970s. Can you see a situation where it is democratically possible for somebody to make those kind of cuts?
I think it remains possible to make those kinds of cuts. I would just point out that these emigration figures are totally catastrophic because the people who are leaving are young people who are not people on welfare, right? You don't leave Britain if you're on welfare. You stay in Britain. So the people on welfare not working, being given more and more money by the people who do work, are staying put. And the people who are increasingly desperate at the tax rates, at the lack of economic opportunity, at the stagnant wages, at the high house prices and so on, are leaving in very large numbers. So the kinds of people who are leaving are the most productive, potentially. And this is going to have a devastating effect on the economy. And the only people coming back are older UK people. In fact, this entire concept of net migration is clearly increasingly meaningless given the scale of the departures, right? It doesn't really give you enough information as to what's happening.
Editor of the Sunday Telegraph, Alistair Heath, thank you very much for joining us to give us your views on that. Of course, big story today, big story.
Well, still ahead. Do you feel excluded by our national anthem, God Save the King? Find out why one former government minister wants it to be replaced.
It's a bit tiring, isn't it, really? Up next, we'll have the details on US President Donald Trump's migration crackdown after Sarah Beckstrom, one of the National Guard members who was shot by an Afghan man, has died.
But first, we're going to go to our European weather forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The heavy rain across parts of Greece due to Storm Adele is now moving into Turkey. We could see some high rainfall totals building up. There's going to be some thunder mixed in, even some large hail as well. Further west, and a few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy. Elsewhere, mostly dry. Much of Spain actually largely dry, similar for southern France, but some wet weather pushing into northwestern parts of Spain and also Portugal, and that will feed further southeastwards through the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So proud of GB News for getting, and Bev of course, for getting the interview. But the real important message from all of it was, of course, President Trump's attack on the BBC. I've been proven wrong because I tweeted a couple of days ago, it just shows how much I know. I tweeted that I thought President Trump might accept the apology from the BBC as an off-ramp and say, look, I want to be the nice guy here. I don't want to sting the great British public who, of course, pay the licence fee and who would ultimately be funding any settlement or court fees. So I thought he might use that as an off-ramp. But nope, we got into the Roosevelt room in the White House. Bev sat down with him. I was standing just behind Bev listening to the whole interview. And even before we went live with the interview and started recording, he was so shocked, angry, and more than anything, actually, confused as to why the BBC would behave like that. He just couldn't believe, not that, you know, on one occasion, fine, maybe it could be a mistake, but the second time, the Newsnight incident just proved that, in his mind, it was intentional, it was institutional bias. There's a clip there of, a photo, sorry, there of us in the Oval Office. It was an amazing experience, Nana, of course, just being in that room. Once we finished the interview, President Trump came over to us and said hello and asked if we'd like to see his office and the Oval Office. And yeah, stepping into that room, the history, you can feel it, the soul of the place, the grandeur, the gold as well that President Trump has installed all over the room. He's received some criticism for his use of sort of gold decor across the White House, but I have to say it was extraordinary. And it didn't stop there. He then invited Bev and I and some of the crew out onto the Rose Garden patio. There was American music playing, which was very funny, and we had a quick glimpse down at the presidential Hall of Fame, just from the top of the patio there.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, the US President Donald Trump has said that he's going to permanently pause migration from all third world countries. This is after 2 National Guard members were shot in Washington, D.C. by an Afghan man.
The president said he would terminate millions of admissions under Joe Biden's administration and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States.
Well, you've been getting in touch about this story, and on your say, Maggie has said Trump is trying to keep US citizens safe. How can that be wrong?
Dave says, suggest if you want to visit the US, do so now. Another few months, the UK will become a third world country.
It's possible.
Might be too late. Might be too late. Who knows? We're now joined by US political commentator Nora Lee Knotson. Nora, pleasure to see you. The president has come out very strong on this issue. He's listed a raft of policy measures he'd like to take as a result of this. Are these going to happen in short succession, or will there be some sort of process? How long do these things take to enact by the President of the United States?
Well, firstly, it's a horrible tragedy, what happened. And on Thanksgiving Day, you know, we give gratitude for all those who protect our nation, and obviously for our leader who's doubling down on his pledge to put America first and secure our borders. As we know, under Biden, over 70,000 Afghans came into the country, and sadly, the perpetrator of this heinous crime was one of those who came under Biden. He drove from Washington State, has 5 sons, was 29 years old, and killed those 2 National Guard, not killed both, but killed 1 National Guard member, shot both. So Trump is being strong, and that's classic Trump, and that's what we should expect. He said he wants to take time to review the protocol that allows these immigrants to be there. The one who perpetrated this crime, he was actually given asylum in April, and they want to review that process. I don't know how long it's going to take. I think it's a work in progress right now. But Trump's sending a strong message to deter others who want to undermine our national security, because he's even threatened to take away all benefits.
Now, it wasn't such a long time ago when most people would have agreed that it was a sensible policy to restrict who comes into a country, to make sure that they were culturally compatible with your own nation. And yet now, even saying some of those things, you can be accused of racism or being far right. How do you think Trump and the administration will combat those kind of accusations? And how will they actually make sure that they're not attracting people from the far right?
Well, firstly, Trump's going to stick to his pledge to secure our nation. And if securing our nation makes you a target for these other, racist claims, so be it. You're not going to stop people from wanting to make those claims. Of course, we can't stop all violence and crime that occurs in our nation. But as the leader who pledged to keep our nation safe, to put the interest of Americans first, he's going to continue to uphold that pledge and be strong in his leadership in doing so. It will be controversial, clearly.
Well, Nora, as well, part of the president's pledge on this issue is to, and he says, reverse migration, end federal benefits for non-citizens, denaturalising disruptive migrants, aiming for major reductions in illegal entries. I mean, many people in the United Kingdom will say, actually, these are sensible policies. It's the rhetoric, of course, that people get upset about. This reminds me of the Muslim country ban that Trump put in his first administration. Is this something you think the president should have done sooner, or is it sort of now becoming a lot more of a bigger issue due to these shootings?
I think this shooting gives him more leverage to be even stronger on his policy to protect our borders. And so he's using this shooting as the opportunity to get tougher on migration.
Nora Lee Knotson, thank you so much, as always, for joining us. It's a pleasure to speak to you this morning. Alex, I think the problem that Trump has, though, is that even people who are kind of in the centre or not particularly interested in politics, although they might agree in principle with his policies, the kind of rhetoric does kind of turn those people off. And it does feel extreme, even if it isn't. And people will say, why aren't you concentrating on the massive amounts of violence, though, inherent within American citizens.
Well, yeah, that will be the argument. But I was saying this to people earlier on today. So, we shouldn't worry about the rhetoric. We should worry about the facts. We should worry about the crime. We should worry about the rapes and other things that are happening from people from across the world. And we've got to stop it here in the UK.
Well, will he deliver? We'll see. Well, there have been plenty of critics of Rachel Reeves. Now her family are getting involved. We'll reveal all shortly. You're watching Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, across parts of Scotland, it was a very windy night and there are more strong winds to come as we go through this morning in particular. We're talking gusts of 60, 70 miles per hour, perhaps even up to 75 miles per hour around some northern and western coasts. The wind's easing a little bit as we go into the afternoon, but staying pretty blustery and some hefty showery bursts of rain. Some hail mixed in with this, even a few rumbles of thunder and some sleet and snow over higher ground. Elsewhere, we're talking sunny spells and some bursts of showery rain pushing through, and temperatures in the south still a touch above average for the time of year, but markedly lower than they were yesterday. Then as we go through later on into this evening, still blustery, still quite windy across many parts of Scotland, particularly towards the northeast. Orkney and Shetland seeing some strong gusts as we go through the evening. Plenty more showery bursts of rain, sleet and hill snow pushing through as well, and also showery rain feeding in across much of Northern Ireland too. A slightly drier story across much of England and Wales, albeit a few bursts of rain over some parts of northern England and a band of showers clearing away from the southeast. So some drier, clearer weather for a time as we go through this evening and overnight, but quite quickly we are then going to see some more wet and windy weather spilling in from the southwest, pushing its way northeastwards across much of central southern England and Wales. Further north, a few showers still, but some clear spells, and here a touch of frost quite likely in some rural spots. Further south, with the unsettled weather pushing through, it is going to be a little bit milder. And then it's a wet and windy day across the southern third, maybe half of the UK as the weather system makes its way northeastwards. Watch out for strengthening winds as we go through tomorrow around some eastern coastal parts of England in particular. Could be some strong gusts here, and the heavy rain could build up, causing some issues as well. Further north, a brighter, drier picture, but quite chilly here as well.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for our more than 2 million YouTube subscribers and more than 2 billion views. That is Britain watching, sharing and making its voice heard louder than ever before.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Road users should exercise caution on the M90 Friarton Bridge and the A55 Britannia Bridge due to high winds. In Durham, an accident on the A66 westbound between the A1M and the A685 has closed one lane. In South Gloucestershire, the A46 northbound has a collision between the A420 and the M4, closing all lanes. In Surrey, the M25 anti-clockwise has lane closures between junction 8 and 7. On the trains, there's disruption between Coventry and Rugby with Avanti West Coast and between West Ealing and Greenford on Great Western Railway. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock on Friday, the 28th of November. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
It's time for another U-turn.
I'm very proud of the Employment Rights Bill and our plan to make work pay. We now introduce for amendments today sick pay for over 1 million workers from day one, rights from day one.
The Prime Minister drops day one sacking safeguards in Angela Rayner's Workers' Rights Bill. Another U-turn, another manifesto breach.
Yes, good news for business, but some Labour MPs very unhappy. Indeed, could there be another rebellion brewing?
And we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country.
Well, that's the US President Donald Trump, who's pledged to permanently pause migration from all third world countries. This is just hours after a female soldier is shot and killed by an Afghan suspect in Washington, D.C.
Former Government Minister Norman Baker tells Chopper's political podcast that Britain should replace God Save the King as the national anthem. Here's why.
This national anthem excludes people who are Republicans and excludes people, by the way, who don't believe in God. And that's wrong. We should have a national anthem everybody's very proud of.
Well, there's been an exodus of young aspirational workers leaving Britain. We'll be looking at the reasons why and where they're going.
French President Emmanuel Macron with troops there as he announces a voluntary military service in the face of growing global threats. Do we need something similar here in Britain to boost our armed forces numbers?
And it's Black Friday. Are you trying to bag a bargain? Well, GB News' technology editor Aaron Brown is across all the latest details.
Yes, I'll be here with all the deals and discounts that you genuinely can't afford to miss.
And with £4 in every £5 being spent online today, we're here at the Amazon Fulfilment Centre in Bristol, finding out exactly how it all works.
What do you think of Donald Trump's sensational plan to ban visas and migrants from third world countries? Of course, there's a raft of other migration changes there too. What do you think of it, Miriam?
Well, I think it's perfectly sensible to say which cultures are not compatible with Western culture. And, you know, let's just look at, for example, how women are viewed. So in the West, we see women as equally human to men. That's quite revolutionary from a historical perspective. But there are many cultures in the world that still don't see women as equal to men. And so why would we want thousands of people from those countries, male or female, let's be honest, coming in to Western countries? I think these are really legitimate questions to ask that should have been asked a long time ago. However, I do worry that some of this rhetoric, and it is rhetoric, does just appeal to people with extreme views who are actually more interested in having a fight about this than actually solving their country's problems. So, you know, will he follow through with it? That is my biggest question.
I think he will.
Sometimes he doesn't.
I think he's going to follow through on this one because I think the outrage at this attack on the National Guard, and it is an attack, is going to really spur the American right, and they want to see their president take action. And I think when we look at European countries as well, we've sort of have this all thoughts and prayers sort of character now, don't we? Oh, we'll just let this one pass. And at what point do you say, actually, we need to do something? And whether you like or loathe Donald Trump, he is a man of action, and he does do what he says he's going to do most of the time, at least.
Well, let's hope so. And also, I just think we just need a much better debate about culture and how important culture is. It's not about individuals. It's not about saying, oh, there are all these evil people in the world, they shouldn't come into our country. Well, of course, there are some people who do mean bad. But actually, why can't we talk about culture? Yeah. Which cultures are, frankly, better and safer than others? Can we not said it, not all cultures are equal, eh? What do you think? gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you. The top stories. The Labour government is facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. Business groups voiced concerns it would discourage firms from hiring. The government argued it was making the climb down to stop its employment legislation being delayed in the House of Lords, where it has run into opposition. This comes as warnings grow that Rachel Reeves's budget will deliver lacklustre growth and truly dismal living standards, with millions set to be worse off due to stealth tax rises. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith spoke to GB News.
Go and tax people more, you undermine incentives to build a business. Someone builds a business and then you tax them when they try and pass it on to their children with the family business death tax. No wonder we've got an anemic economy, where we found out yesterday that 250,000 people are leaving, 100,000 of them, some of our youngest, bestest and brightest. You've got to invert all of this. If a government was serious about growth, it wouldn't be pursuing the Employment Rights Bill, the Bill for Unemployment, and it would not have absolutely done the budget that we heard about on Wednesday, which is on the side of welfare, on the side of the public sector, very cosseted, but not on the side of people who get up and work hard in the morning, or small businesses.
However, the Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson says the decision to abandon day one workers' rights against unfair dismissal is not a U-turn, and she also said it does not break Labour's manifesto.
We said in our manifesto that we wanted to bring forward important day one protections. We also said that we consult with business and trade unions and others to make that happen, and we've done that. So there's been a pragmatic way forward that's been found. There will still be a big improvement around unfair dismissal rights. No longer 2 years you have to wait in order to make a claim, but down to 6 months. That means we can continue with the passage of the bill through Parliament. It means that from next April, we hope that so many of those rights will be delivered, and that will make a huge difference to working people.
In other news, Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. The US president wrote in a Truth Social post that the decision would allow the US system to fully recover from immigration policies that had eroded the gains and living conditions of many Americans. He did not provide details of his plan or name which countries might be affected, though. Donald Trump's comments come a day after an Afghan national is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. And the president paid tribute to 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom as a highly respected and magnificent person. She was one of the 2 Guard members shot in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday. The other National Guard member, Andrew Wolf, who was attacked, remains in a critical condition. The suspected gunman, an Afghan national, he is in a critical condition. He drove thousands of miles from his home in Washington state to carry out the attack, according to the U.S. attorney. He was shot, injured in exchange of fire. He's now under heavy guard in hospital. Elsewhere, rescue efforts have been called off at the site of the huge Hong Kong blaze. The death toll has now risen to 128. At least 79 people, including 12 firefighters, were injured and around 200 people still missing. Questions are now turning to how the blaze started. Police say the materials on the outside of the building were not fireproof. 3 construction company executives have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. And finally, an NHS screening programme for prostate cancer could come one step closer if it's backed today by a key committee that advises the government. The National Screening Committee, comprised of doctors and economists, will reveal whether it now believes the benefits of screening outweigh any risks and whether testing could be done at a reasonable cost to the NHS. When it last looked at the evidence in 2020, it rejected calls for screening, even though prostate cancer kills 12,000 men a year. But in recent months, there's been growing strong pressure for screening from high-profile public figures such as Olympian Sir Chris Hoy. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more in half an hour.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News, of course, with Alex and Miriam.
Well, the French police are reportedly going to start intercepting migrant boats crossing the Channel. This is following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations.
Comes as French newspaper Le Monde says they have obtained an official document signed by 4 prefects responsible for beaches around Calais and Dunkirk, from which thousands of migrants head off to England every day.
Well, let's get more with our Home and Security editor, Mark White. Mark, thank you for joining us. There have long been complaints that the French are not doing anywhere near enough to deter small boat crossings. Could this be the answer we're looking for?
Well, it could well be. We've been hearing about this for such a long time. It was back in April, of course, that the Prime Minister and then Home Secretary Yvette Cooper spoke about this tactic, that the French had agreed to explore the use of this tactic, and they were just in the process of trying to operationalise a tactic that would see French maritime gendarmerie, these rigid inflatable boats, pushing the migrant boats in shallow water and in calm seas back to the shore, but it's been stuck ever since, it seems, with disputes over just how well covered any French maritime police officer would be if this tactic was to go wrong. The French policing unions fear that their backs wouldn't be covered if there was a tragedy as a result of this tactic being operationalised. However, it now seems to have taken a very significant step forward, as Le Monde, a very reputable publication, of course, in France, has seen an official document, it says, and that official document has now been signed by the four prefectures in that stretch of coastline that stretches from Dunkirk down past Calais, the Pas de Calais, and further south. The main beaches, effectively, where these migrant boats, and in particular the taxi boats, come out of. Now, taxi boats, for those that don't know, are boats that are launched initially in the river systems. They come down the rivers with maybe 20 migrants or so on board. Then they linger offshore, where the main body of migrants wade into the water to get on the boats. And the French maritime police believe that that point would be the best potential for intercepting these dinghies while they don't have that many people in them, while they're in shallow water, and then try and push them back to the shore. So according to Le Monde, those 4 prefectures have now signed this document paving the way for this system to be operationalised. And I think there's no understating just how welcome this will be from the Prime Minister. He's just been battered by bad news after bad news with hokey-cokey migrants. Yesterday we were reporting that just 3.5% of all small boat migrants who've come since 2018 have actually been sent back to their home countries, removed from the UK since this crisis began, and more than 190,000 have come across. So the British government want to see some movement here. They want to see this scheme get off the ground. I should say that I reached out to the UK government, and their response is interesting because it's not a denial. What they're saying is that this is a matter that the French government is taking an operational lead on, and any comment would have to come from them. So they're not shooting down these reports, which tells me they're pretty accurate, I think.
Mark White, GB News Home and Security Editor, thank you very much for bringing us that breaking news. I'd love to know what you think at home. Do you buy it? Do you buy it? Because I don't know if there's any precedent really to buy that this is going to change anything, but we should welcome some good news perhaps. Maybe I'm being cynical.
Well, I think the French should learn from the Romans. Do you know how the Romans conquered France, or Gaul as it was then? Well, they taught them how to grow wine, and when they were addicted to it, they invaded them. So how about just plying all the asylum camps with wonderful French wine? I don't think they'll be getting into any small boats.
I think the British public might have something to say about them.
Well, the French have got loads of extra
free
wine lakes, don't they? Yeah, well, they won't be drunk in charge of small boats, probably not a good idea.
There you go.
Anyway, Labour has ditched its flagship plan to give workers the right to claim unfair dismissal from day one.
The qualifying period will now be 6 months, marking a direct challenge to Labour's left and a big change from Angela Rayner's original pledge.
Well, is it another U-turn? We're joined now by GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, good morning. Labour backbenchers were happy for about 24 hours after the budget. They may not be so happy now.
No, indeed. Labour backbenchers were very, very happy after the budget because they got that two-child benefit cap lifted, despite the fact the majority of the public think that that was not the right move. We know that this ditching of this ability to sue for unfair dismissal on your first day, basically, in a new job, is not going down well with some. John McDonnell have said that it's a sellout. Of course he would, wouldn't he? But even people like Justin Madders, who's a key ally of Angela Rayner, has said that it's a manifesto breach, and it is, because they did promise this, but it follows 2 days of very secretive talks between ministers, business leaders and the unions, and this 6 months is much more than 2 years as it stands currently. You don't have that right to sue for unfair dismissal till you've been in a job for 2 years. 6 months, I think many people will see as a sensible middle ground. And worth saying too that they couldn't get it through the House of Lords, because the House of Lords, it was ping-ponging back and forth between the Lords and the Commons. But many Lords, I think, just thought that this policy was ridiculous because of the risk to businesses. You can do all the checks, you can take all the references, you do all the interviews, but until you actually start working with somebody, and the feeling was that it would stop businesses hiring, basically, because it just become too much of a risk.
Catherine, I remember before, just after the election, the Prime Minister stood up outside Number 10 and said, we're going to put the country first, not the party first. It feels very much like to me that this government is constantly swinging the pendulum between putting the party first, its own self-interests, whilst it then has to have an afterthought and go, oops, what about the economy? What about the country?
Yes, exactly. He did say that. He was challenged, I think, on TV yesterday for putting the party before the country. They are denying that. But look, they said they would not raise taxes on working people. Now, you can argue on the head of a pin about, oh, they didn't put the rates of income tax up, whether they've kept to it or not. They've certainly broken it in spirit. They have chosen to lift that two-child benefit cap, and they have done it. Yes, sure, Labour MPs, who doesn't want to lift children out of poverty? But Rachel Reeves had previously said it was unaffordable, they couldn't afford to do it, and she didn't want to do it. She pushed back against scrapping it in its entirety. They've spent $3 billion on doing that, and they have done that to shore up their own position and buy the Chancellor and the Prime Minister time because of all these rumours of MPs plotting to get rid of them. I still think that come the May elections, when, of course, the public will get to deliver their verdict, they could be in a bit of trouble because, of course, many people are not thinking that the budget is going to deliver for them.
Well, Catherine, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
There's only a few weeks left until Christmas. I can't believe that still, it's crazy. Time's running out, though, for you to enjoy it all on us. 40 grand in tax-free cash, £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket, and a festive GB News goodie bag. The best news, you get it all in time for the big day. Here's all the details.
There's just 28 days until Christmas, and it's the final week to see how you can enjoy it on us. That's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 fantastic. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family, the tree and decorations. £1,000 in vouchers to buy a slap-up Christmas lunch at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. Plus, we're going to get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, and it's the biggest shopping day of the year, the Black Friday sales, and the perfect time to bag yourself a bargain.
And GB News technology editor Aaron Brown is with us this morning. Good morning, Aaron. What deals can you find for us? I know a few people have said to me, Alex, given the beard trimmer incident it happened a few weeks ago, where you looked about 5 years old, you should probably invest in a new one of those. Any luck there, Aaron?
I'm still researching the beard trimmer for you. I'll be back in about an hour with the perfect deal for you and your facial hair, don't worry. In the meantime, though, it's really exciting getting new stuff for Black Friday, buying new things, but knowing what to do with the old stuff is part of the problem as well. Luckily, some of the deals this year capitalise on that. So Samsung, for example, are offering up to £250 off their Black Friday prices if you trade in an old TV.
Wow.
The amount that you get for your TV isn't even dependent on the manufacturer or the condition of it. It depends on which model of the new Samsung TVs you're going to buy. So even broken TVs, you could qualify for the full £250 off. And you don't have to worry about putting it on an auction site or anything like that.
I need a new TV.
A top tip for anyone looking for a new iPhone. Every September, Apple traditionally refreshes its iPhone lineup, and the new Pro models, it will discontinue last year's one. So there's a window of a couple of months where you might be able to get some of the old stock before they completely run out. Amazon has already run out, but AO has got last year's 16 Pro. So if you're not fussed about having the latest and greatest, it's £100 off, and it's a great way to get that triple camera, the Pro Motion display, and all the sort of good stuff on that flagship model. Moving on to Boots, they've got the lowest possible deal at the moment on the Dyson Airwrap. The new model, that's the ID, which has the AI memory for your attachments, so your heat settings and everything like that will be remembered as you swap between the attachments. It's £329, that's £150
I thought it was a vacuum
off.
cleaner. It's not a vacuum
No,
cleaner.
it's not.
It's the multi-styler. Yeah, the small print with this deal is you have to be not too fussy about the colourway that you go for. So the ceramic, patina and topaz is the one that's $329. It's $399 if you want any of the other colourways. So it depends on how bothered you are with that. Sticking with the Dyson theme, but not vacuum cleaners, I'm afraid. We're going to go to their supersonic hairdryer, which is $189 on Boots as well. That's the lowest price. I mean, just a year ago, you were looking at a refurbed model for this kind of price. And they've got a discount code as well that you can drop in for next day delivery. So you could be using it this time tomorrow.
There we go.
Wow. Well, apparently I've been told that I'm dressed like I work at Sainsbury's today. Do you think Sainsbury's have got any good Black Friday deals? No, later I might get a discount.
Yeah, surely you would be able to tell me that and what to do with my Nectar points. Yeah, I'll have a look for you as well. Razor and Sainsbury's.
Yeah,
okay, I'm on it.
That's what I definitely need. I can't have another incident like that. I think a few viewers are writing in with some scathing reviews of my beardless face.
Well, one of them asked who the work experience kid was.
Yeah, that's right. All right, let's cross over. Yeah, thank you, Aaron. I'm looking forward to that beard trimmer. Let's cross over to Bristol, where GB News national reporter Jack Carson is at an Amazon distribution centre. Jack, over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, here we are at the Amazon Fulfilment Centre in Bristol. Of course, over the Black Friday period, £6.4 billion is going to be spent in the UK, the average spend being more than £230. And here in Amazon, of course, such a big part of that comes from places like this, where those orders are picked, packed, ready to be shipped. Some of the work going on behind us now, and General Manager here, Richard Griffiths, join us, because behind us is probably one of the most exciting parts about how all of this works here, and how all of these Black Friday deals work. And that's these robots. Tell us about them.
Yeah, so behind us we've got the Amazon robotics floor, and here we are storing millions of units, many of which will be heading out to our customers over the course of today. And what you can see is us storing our inventory in the yellow shelving we call pods. And whenever a customer places an order, one of the small and mighty drive units will slide underneath one of those pods, lift in the pods. They can lift up to a concert grand piano in weight, and take those pods over to one of our colleagues who'll be picking those units. Units from Christmas gifts, the hottest Christmas gifts, right through to a pair of socks, delivering those items to our customers when they need it.
And they're all randomly stored, so people would think, oh, maybe that's full of, chocolate, that one's full of something else, but it's all random. Why is that?
Yeah, we use some systems that work to spread the inventory right across the floor. It's all stored at random, and we've worked over years to figure out that this is truly the best way of storing the inventory, to get it quickly on its way to our customers.
But then it's still then used with humans to be part of the process, so it's not fully automated. There's still that human aspect.
Correct. It's real harmony between our employees here who do some really great work alongside the robotics. And our aim through the innovation at Amazon is to really make the lives and work of our employees easier. And it's work to improve the repetitive tasks that would otherwise be done.
Right, Richard, thank you so much once again for joining us. We are bringing you all the way that this system all works here at Amazon, because when you're ordering Black Friday deals, this is all such a huge part about how they get then to you.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Jack. A bit different from being at the pub, isn't it, mate? There you go. Big day. Get boxing up for Christmas. Jack Carston, our little...
suggesting that's where Jack spends most of his time.
Well, he was at a pub yesterday, wasn't it? I think he was at a pub yesterday. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. There we go.
Well, up next, do you feel excluded by our national anthem? Find out where there are calls for it to be replaced. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
People are getting married less because, society has changed. People are simply becoming more secular. And because they're becoming more secular, they don't view that marriage is a divine religious institution. And that more and more people have turned away from God, and because they've turned away from God, they don't view, the institution that has been the bedrock of society. So society has changed. People have moved away from religion or organized religion, and they just don't view it as a bedrock of religious religious growth. People don't think getting right with the Lord Jesus or having a pastor in their life as part of their marriage. Also, younger people today care more about their careers. They care more about financial stability. They care more about, having their own lives and their freedom than traditional marriage than it used to be. So it's just a big change of society today.
And Charlie Downs, does that matter? Are there negatives to being focused on career and choosing to shack up as opposed to get married in church?
Very much so. I mean, I like to think that I am slightly swimming against the tide because, there we go, I got married at the beginning of last month, and I'm 24. Aww. And the last time that the average age of marriage in this country was 24 was 60 years ago. The average age of marriage now is about 33 years old, which is a historic high. And I think this is largely because of the reasons that Pastor Mark outlined just now, which is that we don't actually understand as young people what marriage is.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam.
Well, this Christmas, we're putting on a really exciting event, and we want lots of you there too.
On Saturday, the 13th of December, you're invited to join the GB News family for our Carols by Candlelight concert. For your chance to be with us, you can apply by scanning the QR code on the screen right now. We're going to gbnews.com/carols. The concert will be recorded and broadcast on Christmas Eve, in which, funnily enough, I'll be here on Christmas Eve. So if you also want double delight, you can join me for Christmas. I don't know if I'm selling myself a bit too either.
Wishes come true.
Absolutely.
I said nobody ever, Andy. Of course, you can see we're joined by GP and broadcaster Dr. Renee Hunterkamp and political commentator Andy Williams in the studio. Before we get cracking, should we just play this video of Chopper's Political Podcast with Norman Baker first?
and change the national anthem? You think that's inappropriate now?
Well, the national anthem is God Save the King. And I have to say that every other country I can think of, the national anthem reflects the country, not the person who's a head of state. And you want a national anthem to be adopted by everybody in the country. This national anthem excludes people who are Republicans and excludes people, by the way, who don't believe in God. And that's wrong.
Well, Andy, what do you think? Should we ban or change the national anthem to be more inclusive?
Not for that reason, but I do think we should consider changing it because it's a bad anthem. Like, it is a dirge, isn't it? Let's be honest. When I'm watching the rugby or the football and you hear Italy and France and Australia and Ireland and even Scotland, the English-British national anthem is just, it's a bore.
It's not very rousing, is it?
Don't be ridiculous. Honestly,
I'm so glad you're here. Go on,
let's not forget that the Lib Dems want us to rejoin Europe. That is their desperate thing. They never give an interview without saying that Brexit is the woes of the world. They want to go back in. They hate this country. They hate anything to do with the monarchy.
No, they just want our economy to be better. They want us to trade with our closest
They hate anything to do with the monarchy. I think it's ridiculous. The national anthem is our history. Leave it alone. Honestly, Norman, I'm disappointed with you.
Can I just ask, because I can 100% agree with you, Dr. Renee, not surprisingly, but if you had to pick an alternative national anthem, which one would you pick?
It would be something like Jerusalem.
Yeah.
You know,
that's what I'd say.
That is rousing.
I would say Rule Britannia, because I think that would really wind up Andy Williams, first of all. Actually, no, maybe not Andy, but it would really upset the far lefties, which I would just love to see that played at every sporting event. Can you imagine the bedlam they would just experience hearing that? But I don't see the point in changing our national anthem. I don't understand this desire for it. I guess that it's, not, the most rousing national anthem, but it's something about our culture, our history, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think Jerusalem's better. I don't have an issue with it at all. I don't have an issue with God Save the King.
We are a monarchy.
Like many people, I'm probably still singing God Save the Queen and kind of like correcting it in my head. But no, look, I don't think it's something the Lib Dems should put on the front page of their next manifesto. I'm not sure it's a vote winner.
But it is. I mean, maybe I'm taking this a little bit too seriously, but it is this kind of progressive view that we can always improve on the past, where sometimes, small C conservatives would say that actually most of the time our traditions are there for a good reason and we should only tamper with them if there's a really good reason to.
And we have really tried to degrade the past and make it, we're embarrassed about it, we want to get rid of as much of it as possible. And I think it's time to reclaim it.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, well, look, I think we're in some sort of consensus here, which is a good thing.
I just
Always
find
quite
it
dangerous,
really
actually,
hard
as well.
to sing God Save the King, because having sung God Save the Queen all my life, it's still quite there on the tip of my tongue.
But at least for the next two generations, we'll likely have a king. So get used to it, yeah, get used to it. What else should we talk about, Dr. Renee? What else have you got on your list?
Well, there's the Trump to permanently pause migration from third world countries, which I like as an idea, and I think it's something that we should do here. Obviously, we never will. But I absolutely agree that when you're drowning under immigration anyway, and we saw this morning that half of all asylum claims, half of our net migration is asylum claims.
We are 43%, is it?
Yeah,
like that?
44%. Yeah. So our infrastructure is crumbling. Now, that might not be the asylum seekers' fault, but it's a fact. Our schools can't cope, our GPs can't cope, our hospitals can't cope. I think it's time to just put a pause on all migration while we get to grips with it. When America are seeing the kind of terrorism that they've seen this week, I completely understand this knee-jerk reaction.
But it's not because he's Afghan that he did this. That's not why.
And do we know why he did this? I don't think we know the motive.
We don't know, but what we can't say for sure is that it's because he's a certain nationality. These sorts of incidents happen in America all the time. They're often committed by white people. Yes. The problem in America is guns. It's not Afghans. There's a reason why. I mean, I don't even need to rehearse all of the stats about gun crime in America. All they need to do is sort out their massive gun problem and behave like a grown-up country rather than a third world backwater.
Well, we have to get. Unfortunately, we've got to leave it there. I know we're just getting stuck into it, but we will come back to it. I promise you, because I can see you all on yours, so you want to get involved as well. We will come back to this topic. I promise you. But just a reminder, in the meantime, friends of GB News, of course, you can go there. You can vote in today's poll. You decide, of course. Scan the QR code, and we're asking which government is most responsible for the rise in asylum seeker hotels. So far, you've said this: Labour or the Conservatives. 10% of you have said the Conservatives, and a whopping 90% of you have said Labour.
Very interesting. But first of all, here is your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Miriam, thank you. The top stories. The Labour government's facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. Breaking news this hour, French police are reportedly going to start intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations. Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. It comes the day after an Afghan national is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C., one of whom sadly died. Rescue efforts have been called off at the site of the huge Hong Kong blaze. The death toll has now risen to 128. At least 79 people, including 12 firefighters, were injured, and around 200 people are still missing. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more in half an hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, coming up next, rough sleeping has increased across every region of England compared to the previous year. Wonder if you've seen it where you're living. Well, we'll be talking all about that next. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello again, very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, across parts of Scotland, it was a very windy night and there are more strong winds to come as we go through this morning in particular. We're talking gusts of 60, 70 miles per hour, perhaps even up to 75 miles per hour around some northern and western coasts. The wind's easing a little bit as we go into the afternoon, but staying pretty blustery and some hefty showery bursts of rain, some hail mixed in with this, even a few rumbles of thunder and some sleet and snow over higher ground. Elsewhere, we're talking sunny spells and some bursts of showery rain pushing through, and temperatures in the south still a touch above average for the time of year, but markedly lower than they were yesterday. Then as we go through later on into this evening, still blustery, still quite windy across many parts of Scotland, particularly towards the northeast. Orkney and Shetland seeing some strong gusts as we go through the evening. Plenty more showery bursts of rain, sleet and hill snow pushing through as well, and also showery rain feeding in across much of Northern Ireland too. A slightly drier story across much of England and Wales, albeit a few bursts of rain over some parts of northern England and a band of showers clearing away from the southeast. So some drier, clearer weather for a time as we go through this evening and overnight, but quite quickly we are then going to see some more wet and windy weather spilling in from the southwest, pushing its way northeastwards across much of central southern England and Wales. Further north, a few showers still, but some clear spells, and here a touch of frost quite likely in some rural spots. Further south, with the unsettled weather pushing through, it is going to be a little bit milder. And then it's a wet and windy day across the southern third, maybe half of the UK as the weather system makes its way northeastwards. Watch out for strengthening winds as we go through tomorrow around some eastern coastal parts of England in particular. Could be some strong gusts here, and the heavy rain could build up, causing some issues as well. Further north, a brighter, drier picture, but quite chilly here as well.
Thank you, Britain, for sharing over 5 million comments on your say, because when you talk, we listen.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Road users should be cautious on the M90 Friarton Bridge due to strong winds. The A55 Britannia Bridge also has high winds. In Durham, an overturned vehicle on the A66 westbound has closed one of 2 lanes. In Northamptonshire, the M1 northbound has a lane closed due to a collision, causing delays. In Essex, congestion adds 15 minutes on the A120 westbound. And on the trains, expect disruptions on Avanti West Coast between Coventry and Rugby, as well as on Great Western Railway between West Ealing and Greenford. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 22 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam.
Well, rough sleeping has hit a post-pandemic high, according to new data.
Yes, it's up by 94% since 2021, and the data shows that rough sleeping has increased in every region of England compared to previous years.
Well, long-term rough sleeping is also at record levels, with 3,400 sleeping rough for over 3 of the last 12 months.
Well, we're joined now by Senior Fellow at the Centre for Social Justice, Matthew Torbett. Good morning, Matthew. Welcome to the show. Tell us about this data. Is this rise that we've seen since the pandemic due to benefits cuts? What's it due to?
I think there's a mixture. You've seen a rise. First of all, for me, most concerningly, is longer being there, outlasting, and there being a greater number of the new rough sleepers. There's a failed asylum system that's playing its part. So I think 10%, 20% of that is people that haven't got home office accommodation, therefore ending up on the streets as well. There's a real mix, and it really speaks to me as a sort of, if we needed one, a savage indictment of a society that isn't working, and also certainly a homelessness system that isn't working in getting people off the street and into safe accommodation.
Yeah, I've a place where I used to work near Euston there's starting to be a developing, what I would say, sort of tent town, actually, of people sleeping rough, and it's really, really sad. And we see lots of groups particularly affected by this, people with addictions, but also veterans as well. The government were able to put people into homes during COVID. Why can't we do it now?
So political will, for a start. I wouldn't say that would be useful long term. However, it shows it can be done if the political will is there. I think what we at the Centre for Social Justice are calling for is an expansion of the Housing First programme that was so successful in pilots in Greater Manchester, the West Midlands, and also Liverpool City region. We do things differently in this country, unfortunately. We do treatment first. So to enable you to access safe accommodation long term, you have to pass certain things, whether that be getting clean off drugs, whether that be getting mental health support for your issues around that, if you're a veteran or otherwise. Now, the problem with that is a lot of that stuff is hard to do anyway. It's even harder if you're on the street. What Housing First does, which was concepted in New York in the 90s, is it flips that model on its head. So you will gain access to safe accommodation long term, but you will get the wraparound care with that, because the housing comes first, and that's the most important thing, having a roof over your head and feeling safe and secure. We believe that you can scale that up. We've currently got 2,500 places in the UK. You can get that to 5,500 by £25 million a year of funding that already exists. So you scrap civil service relocation funding, expenses. It's 5.5% of the rough sleeping grant, and also 20% of the homeless transformation fund. This is money that already exists. It was committed in the spending review back in the spring by Rachel Reeves. And it works. You know, the fact that there in these regions was anywhere from an 84 to 92% success rate of people keeping a tenancy. That's the only condition you've got to meet. You're willing to sustain a tenancy, and this is changing people's lives.
And all the other things that people need to be able to get out of that situation, jobs, stable relationships, all rely on having a house and an address.
Yeah, and the evidence is there to see from the pilots in the government's own evaluation of people moving into work, moving off benefits, having good lives. We only have one life. And this is, you know, why should people be consigned to the streets? Because there isn't the political will to change that.
Totally agree with you, Matthew. If you don't mind sharing with us your experience of this, there's a reason why you're so passionate about this as well, because you've had similar experience yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, no, I was homeless as a teenager, and despite many stereotypes, most people on the streets haven't necessarily done something to belong there. It can come from family breakdown, a job loss, a death in the family, and not being able to keep the mortgage or the rent going. All manner of things, discharges, mental health, all that sort of stuff. I didn't get on with my parents growing up, and they'd had enough of me one day and said, "You've got to go." And I spent a year rough sleeping on the streets of Manchester. I was groomed into a gang and narrowly avoided going to prison, and it was only because my best friend's mum and dad took me in and wanted to give me the support and a second chance at education and a life that I'm sat here today, otherwise I wouldn't be.
Yeah, lovely to see that spirit of British people that really shines through in those moments. But Matthew, I know this is slightly politically charged, but I think it's important because our audience will be asking this question. There's a political will when people come here illegally, they cross the channel, they get put into asylum hotels up and down the country, in many cases homes as well. Why is the will to do this for British citizens? Why do you think that is?
I don't know, and as part of our policy that the Centre for Social Justice have put forward, there would be a locality test for the Housing First places, Because I think this is a good news story for the government.
Yes,
this is an ability to be able to go, there is a perception of unfairness that is in the country at the moment. We want to push back at that and go, we're putting British people first. We're putting British people... As part of the locality test, you will have had to have either lived or claimed benefits in that area. This is not just you've come across and you're given new accommodation. So I would urge the government, this can transform lives. I know firsthand what it takes to get people off the street and what a difference that makes to people. So I would urge Steve Reid and Alison McGovern to take this seriously and put housing first at the front and centre of the homelessness strategy, because I cannot put into words how important it will be for many people up and down this country, especially this time of year.
And for the local communities themselves, I mean, homelessness is obviously a severe problem for people who are homeless, but local residents don't like it either. It's a perception of crime, not feeling safe, all those other things. Surely everybody would be very supportive of an initiative like this.
Also, yes, because as a byproduct of that, you end up essentially making money. But if you invest in this, you tend to make, for every pound, £2 comes back in. That's because of antisocial behaviour going down, whether that be by homeless people or targeted at homeless people. Less people using the health service that are homeless and rough sleeping. People back into work, paying tax and national insurance. So for the 100 million you put in, you're nearly making 300 million. So therefore, you'll benefit in the country, not just socially, but economically as well.
Absolutely right. Matthew Sorbet, thank you for coming in today. Thank you for sharing that experience. I know it's very personal to you, but very important as well. And I completely, we're all behind you. I think this is something that the government really seriously should
tackle. And it's a great example of where government intervention can really help. It's proven, it's targeted, it works. Gary says on Your Say, if they can find accommodation for immigrants, why can't they find it for our homeless? Absolutely right, but I think the point of this programme is it's not just a home, it's the wraparound support that enables people then to take charge back of their own lives and move out of it.
Indeed it does, indeed it does. Good cause to get behind. Up next, a record number of young British people are leaving the country to avoid taxes. What can be done to encourage them to stay?
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun and want to get away just temporarily, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The heavy rain across parts of Greece due to Storm Adele is now moving into Turkey. We could see some high rainfall totals building up. There's going to be some thunder mixed in, even some large hail as well. Further west, and a few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy. Elsewhere, mostly dry. Much of Spain actually largely dry, similar for southern France. But some wet weather pushing into northwestern parts of Spain and also Portugal, and that will feed further southeastwards through the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 11. This is Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam.
Now, we're losing our young workers in Britain as a record number of under 35s emigrated last year.
According to the Office for National Statistics, a net 110,000 British people aged 16 to 34 emigrated, accounting for two-thirds of all departing Britons. But why?
Well, Joanna Marchong, who's the head of communications at the Adam Smith Institute, joins us now. Joanna, good morning. Welcome to the programme. These are quite extraordinary statistics, and I think a record number of people leaving the country since the 1970s, and extraordinary that most of them are so young. What's driving people away?
Well, thanks for having me on. And I don't think these numbers that got released yesterday are actually kind of confirming what we already kind of felt and knew from before. We already had the kind of benefit data come out where it showed that over 700,000 young people are unemployed, and on, like, we have another 600,000 graduates on benefits on universal credit. So that kind of just shows, and there's a number of different reasons why this is happening, and a lot of it has actually been made worse by the budget that happened yesterday. So employment rights bill, the freezing of thresholds, loan repayments, the higher education system absolutely failing young people for years now. And I think it's about time it should be discussed and actually looked into a bit further.
Yeah, and economics and taxes aside, I've spoken to some of my friends who are in their mid-30s now, have just left. They've taken some of their families, are going with them and just permanently leaving Britain. But they also point to cultural issues, safety issues, feel that there's no point spending this, massive rents and everything else in London when their safety is at risk. Is that a part that plays in all of this, do you believe?
I think there's a bit of that. I mean, there's so much unsurety for young people now, and there's no kind of confirmation that once you go to university, you will be able to get a job. I mean, a lot of these young people are seeing that, they have to move back home. They are hardly an adult, and it plays on them. And we already have a crisis with young people feeling anxiety, a lot of pressure, and it's all kind of made worse by the fact that there are no opportunities. And a lot of it is the fact that they can't get jobs. Youth unemployment up 15%. When you're looking at that and you're looking at the opportunities abroad, say Australia, where their youth unemployment is actually only 10%, why wouldn't you go? I mean, you have no links here. It's very hard to make strong foundations here because of rents, because of the fact that the chances that we buy a house are so low now. There's nothing really stopping anyone from just leaving and starting over somewhere else.
I think what's really interesting, Joanna, is that the Labour Party, well, the left in general, talk a lot about fairness, and this was supposed to be a budget for fairness. But some commentators are pointing out that actually things have never been more unfair from an intergenerational point of view, and that successive governments have loaded the economy with huge amounts of debt. So young people now are paying for benefits and a lifestyle that they themselves will never enjoy because the economy will have collapsed by that point. Do you think that is a part of the reason why people are fleeing, that it just feels unfair?
Oh, most definitely, yes. the benefits for young people are being scrapped left, right and centre. Whilst Labour claims to care about everyone and broader shoulders, now they're asking everyone to pay and help. That was their kind of like phrase at this budget. They seem to not be like the one demographic that they haven't addressed, and they haven't called a crisis happening yet, is young people. They've hardly introduced any measures to actually help them. What they've done is introduce worse measures for them. And I'm talking about the minimum wage rise, making it extremely hard for businesses to actually employ them when they're that expensive. Again, the employment rights bill, even though a bit of it has been U-turned, you still have the first day sickness condition where people can it makes it very, very risky for employers to hire new people with very little experience. So there's all of these measures that the government has introduced seeming to help us, but actually for young people, they will just not be able to get jobs. Indeed. And the insecurity will continue.
Joanna, thank you so much for joining us to talk through that very important story today. And still ahead on the show, Trump is taking very tough action. We'll be bringing that to you.
And we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country.
Well, all that after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, across parts of Scotland, it was a very windy night and there are more strong winds to come as we go through this morning in particular. We're talking gusts of 60, 70 miles per hour, perhaps even up to 75 miles per hour around some northern and western coasts. The wind's easing a little bit as we go into the afternoon, but staying pretty blustery and some hefty showery bursts of rain, some hail mixed in with this, even a few rumbles of thunder and some sleet and snow over higher ground. Elsewhere, we're talking sunny spells and some bursts of showery rain pushing through, and temperatures in the south still a touch above average for the time of year, but markedly lower than they were yesterday. Then as we go through later on into this evening, still blustery, still quite windy across many parts of Scotland, particularly towards the northeast. Orkney and Shetland seeing some strong gusts as we go through the evening. Plenty more showery bursts of rain, sleet and hill snow pushing through as well, and also showery rain feeding in across much of Northern Ireland too. A slightly drier story across much of England and Wales, albeit a few bursts of rain over some parts of northern England, and a band of showers clearing away from the southeast. So some drier, clearer weather for a time as we go through this evening and overnight, but quite quickly we are then going to see some more wet and windy weather spilling in from the southwest, pushing its way northeastwards across much of central southern England and Wales. Further north, a few showers still, but some clear spells, and here a touch of frost quite likely in some rural spots. Further south, with the unsettled weather pushing through, it is going to be a little bit milder. And then it's a wet and windy day across the southern third, maybe half of the UK as the weather system makes its way northeastwards. Watch out for strengthening winds as we go through tomorrow around some eastern coastal parts of England in particular. Could be some strong gusts here, and the heavy rain could build up, causing some issues as well. Further north, a brighter, drier picture, but quite chilly here as well.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's about to go 11 a.m. on Friday the 28th of November. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, some breaking news this morning. The French police are reportedly going to get tough and start intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel.
And Donald Trump's having an immigration crackdown.
And we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country.
Well, Donald Trump is pledging to permanently pause migration from all third world countries, just hours after a female soldier is shot and killed by an Afghan suspect.
I'm very proud of the Employment Rights Bill and our plan to make work pay. We now introduce for amendments today sick pay for over 1 million workers from day one, rights from day one.
Well, Angela Rayner says the Prime Minister no thanks as he drops day one sacking safeguards in the Workers' Rights Bill.
And former Government Minister Norman Baker tells Chopper's political podcast that Britain should replace God Save the King as our national anthem. And here's why.
This national anthem excludes people who are Republicans and excludes people, by the way, who don't believe in God. And that's wrong. We should have a national anthem everybody's very proud of.
Black Friday. Are you trying to bag yourself a bargain? Well, GB News' technology editor, Aaron Brown, is across all of the latest deals. Aaron, where's my razor?
It's coming up in about half an hour. Yeah, I've been searching through all the price cuts and promotions to find the deals you genuinely can't afford to miss.
And with 4 in every £5 spent online this Black Friday, we're in the Amazon Fulfilment Centre in Bristol, showing you how your deals get to you.
For those of you who've just tuned in, we are asking Aaron if he can find Alex a cut price razor or beard trimmer. It's not as random as it seems.
Yeah. And it's obviously due to the little beard issue I had a few weeks ago, where I accidentally chipped off a bit of my beard and then had to shave the whole thing off. So I was looked like a 5-year-old for a few gigs here, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
Anyway, all sorted now. But it is Black Friday. We're going to be looking at some of the deals that are available. Also asking the question, some people have claimed that Black Friday is a bit of a scam, that actually some of these prices are down all of the year, and this is just a way of making more money. But you can't really blame the retailers given the year that they've had.
No, they definitely need to make money now more than ever, don't they? Well, what do you want to buy? Let us know, gbnews.com/You'll Say, and we will get Aaron looking for you. But before we get to that, here's your news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you. The top stories. The Labour government's facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. Business groups voiced concerns it would discourage firms from hiring. The government argued it was making the climb down to stop its employment legislation being delayed in the House of Lords, where it has run into opposition. This comes as warnings grow that Rachel Reeves's budget will deliver lacklustre growth and truly dismal living standards, with millions set to be worse off due to stealth tax rises. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith spoke to GB News this morning.
Go and tax people more, you undermine incentives to build a business. Someone builds a business and then you tax them when they try and pass it on to their children with the family business death tax. No wonder we've got an anemic economy, where we found out yesterday that 250,000 people are leaving, 100,000 of them, some of our youngest, bestest and brightest. You've got to invert all of this. If a government was serious about growth, it wouldn't be pursuing the Employment Rights Bill, the Bill for Unemployment, and it would not have absolutely done the budget that we heard about on Wednesday, which is on the side of welfare, on the side of the public sector, very cosseted, but not on the side of people who get up and work hard in the morning, or small businesses.
The Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson, though, says the decision to abandon day one workers' rights against unfair dismissal does not break Labour's manifesto.
We said in our manifesto that we wanted to bring forward important day one protections. We also said that we consult with business and trade unions and others to make that happen, and we've done that. So there's been a pragmatic way forward that's been found. There will still be a big improvement around unfair dismissal rights. No longer 2 years you have to wait in order to make a claim, but down to 6 months. That means we can continue with the passage of the bill through Parliament. It means that from next April, we hope that so many of those rights will be delivered, and that will make a huge difference to working people.
French police are reportedly going to start stepping up intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations. It comes as French newspaper Le Monde says they have obtained an official document signed by 4 prefects responsible for beaches around Calais and Dunkirk, from which thousands of migrants head off to England every day. Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. The US president wrote in a Truth Social post that the decision would allow the US system to fully recover from immigration policies that had eroded the gains and living conditions of many Americans. He did not provide details of his plan or name which countries might be affected. Donald Trump's comments come a day after an Afghan national is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. The president paid tribute to 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom as a highly respected and magnificent person. She was one of the 2 Guard members shot in Washington on Wednesday. The other National Guard member, Andrew Wolf, who was attacked, remains in a critical condition. These suspected gunmen and Afghan nationals in a serious condition. He drove thousands of miles from his home in Washington state to carry out the attack. He was shot, injured in an exchange of fire, and is now under heavy guard in hospital. Rescue efforts have been called off at the site of the huge Hong Kong blaze as the death toll's now risen to 128. At least 79 people, including 12 firefighters, were injured. 1 firefighter reportedly also died, and around 200 people are still missing. Questions are now turning to how the blaze may have started. Police say the materials on the outside of the building were not fireproof. 3 construction company executives have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. And England, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales have submitted their bid to host the 2035 Women's World Cup as the largest single sport event staged in the UK. The Lionesses' leading goal scorer Ellen White described the bid as a really special moment and compared it to her experience of the 2012 Olympics as a part of Team GB. Among the 22 stadiums proposed as potential host venues for a tournament 8 times bigger than the 2022 Euros, as some undergoing redevelopment, and the proposed new stadiums of Birmingham City and Manchester United. The 22 stadiums will be whittled down between 14 and 16. Interest from clubs and local councils in hosting matches stands in stark contrast to the picture before England held the 2022 Women's Euros. And those are the latest headlines. For now, more from me in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of the markets. The pound buying you $1.3209 and 1.1420 euros. The price of gold, £3,154.24 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,711 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Alex and Miriam.
Right, let's see what you've been saying on Your Say. Margaret says, keep God Save the King. We are a kingdom and a Christian country. Anyone who doesn't like it can leave. Hear, hear. I totally agree with you, Margaret. Why do we have to keep on changing things all the time? Why can't we just be proud of it? We were talking about a compromise earlier on, weren't we, Miriam?
Yes, one of our panellists had a good suggestion. So when we have sporting competitions that divides the nations of the United Kingdom, like the rugby, the Scots get their own anthem, the Welsh, the Irish. We should have an English national anthem for those events and then keep God Save the King for British events. What do you think?
Yep, I like that idea.
What would you choose for the English national anthem?
That's a good question.
Comment on Your Say.
Gary's also said here, so France are looking at conscription or national service, as we call it over here, and people are calling for it to happen in the UK. Absolutely not. I have sons and grandsons who would not want to be used as cannon fodder for this country. There we go. That's quite a common opinion these days, and I think I think the problem is that we've lost our love for Britain because we just don't feel like the government stands for us anymore, and I think that's a big change in our society. I don't think that would have been the same sentence we would have said perhaps in World War II.
And also a lot of the wars that the UK has been involved in the last generation were perhaps not wars of national interest in the way that previous ones were. But everybody still thinks, or most people think, that the armed forces should be bigger. So if you do think the armed forces should be bigger, the question is, well, who should be in it? And it is going to be people's sons and grandsons. That is how it works, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm ageing quickly, thankfully. I'll be outside that very shortly. Anyway...
shave off your beard.
Shave off my beard, yeah. We're not having that again. Anyway, some of the breaking news earlier today. French police are reportedly going to start intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel, following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations.
Well, this comes as the French newspaper Le Monde says that they've obtained an official document signed by 4 prefects responsible for beaches around Calais and Dunkirk, from which thousands of migrants head off to England every day. Well,
Mark White, our home and security editor, is here to bring us all the details. Mark, I've got so many questions, but what's the crux of this new policy by the French?
Well, the policy is to try to intercept these migrant boats soon after they launch, and in particular, actually, taxi boats that launch in the river systems, come down the river systems, then hover offshore with about 20 migrants or so on board that then help the other migrants, 60 or however many it might be, that wade into the water to get on the boat. So the policy is to allow the maritime gendarmerie to, with the rigid inflatables, push these migrant boats in shallow and calm waters back to the shore. Seems very sensible. The French policing unions have been very reluctant to go down this road, though, because they see a future in which something does happen that ends in tragedy and they get hung out to dry by the French politicians. So they are not at all happy about being put into a potentially vulnerable position. Having said that, the British government wants to see this and wants to see this as a matter of urgency. You'll remember that Sir Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper announced this policy back in April, 8 months ago. and no movement so far on it, except, you know, regular sort of updates saying, well, the policy is still on track as far as we know. So the latest development would seem to be actually a significant step forward in that the 4 maritime prefectures that align that coastline from Dunkirk through Calais, the Pas de Calais, down towards the Boulogne area, have all signed up to this to allow for this new tactic to be used. So now, if they haven't trained, it would be about the training and operationalising it. It's, you know, it's difficult to overstate just how welcome this would be for Secure Starmer.
And it has worked in Belgium, hasn't it? The Belgians have been doing this, and they have managed to minimise crossings.
That's an excellent point. They have been doing it for years now, and they just don't take any nonsense. They push the boats back. If they're quite a bit offshore, then they'll take the migrants off the boats and onto their boats and land them back onshore. And they have seen, as a result of this, from what was an expanding migrant problem that was going to potentially mirror France, it's disappeared to just a few attempts by occasional boats. But they're so on top of the situation. And obviously the British government wants to see the French doing likewise. But hey, you get a Gallic shrug of the shoulders and 6 months later, nothing has happened.
They're quite into forceful policing though, aren't they? I'm sure they'll find their way.
Well, this is the thing, right, Mark? We've heard these stories time and time again. We've heard these policies coming out of France. Oh, yeah, we're going to wade into the waters. We're going to stop the boats. We've given them £500 million. And actually, the boats have just got more fast and furiously coming to Britain. Do we actually think this is going to make any difference? Do you think there's actually real appetite for the French to stop the boats?
If there's a real commitment to this tactic, it could make a difference. But it's like everything else. You quite rightly mentioned the other tactics of wading into the water, of puncturing the boats. We only see a few occasions where this has happened. And that's quite simply because you've got upwards of 100 migrants there. All young men, apart from maybe 2 or 3 women and children. The vast majority are young men, angry young men, if the police intervene to try to stop their attempt to get into the channel. And we've seen from past endeavours by the police that usually you may have about half a dozen officers or so. So they are really putting themselves at risk of serious harm by trying to enact that tactic. And it's going to be exactly the same with the maritime gendarmerie. If they try to push the boats back, nobody should think that for a second the migrants are just going to sit there and allow their boats to be pushed back. They will fight back and try and push their way through. So I think the French police unions are right to highlight a potential problem here in that it could all go horribly wrong and they may be hung out to dry by the political leaders.
People forget they are gangs. They are violent. There are organised violent gangs involved in this. And as Damien says here on your say, I'll believe it when I see it. And I think I stand with Damien on that one, unfortunately.
There have been dozens of shootings and stabbings that have taken place in the migrant camps and on the beaches as you've got sort of gang rivalry between the various migrant factions. You've got African migrants in particular that don't want to pay or can't afford to pay the price to get on the boat. So their tactic is 30 of them to storm a boat as it's launching and fight their way on board. It's really dangerous out there. And of course, these are people heading to our shores.
And 12 or 13 French police would be very vulnerable in that situation.
You will. Mark White, thank you very much for joining us to bring us that breaking news story today. And just a reminder, Friends of GB News is where you can vote for free in today's You Decide poll. You can scan that QR code on the screen right now. And we're asking, who should take responsibility for stopping the small boats? Britain or France? Get in touch with us.
Well, moving on now, President Donald Trump has said he'll permanently pause migration from all third world countries after 2 National Guard members were shot in Washington, D.C. by an Afghan suspect.
The president said he would terminate millions of admissions under Joe Biden and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States.
Well, on your say, Maggie says Trump is trying to keep US citizens safe. How can that be wrong?
Dave says, suggest if you want to visit the US, do so now. Another few months, the UK will become a third world country. Well, we are now joined by human rights lawyer David Hay. David Hay, thank you very much for joining us this morning. You see some of the thoughts of our viewers there over this change in tact from Donald Trump. Will he come into any difficulty with the way that the law is written in the United States? Many in Britain here will see that as a very welcome policy if we were to have it here. But can Donald Trump actually do this if he wants to?
I think it's good afternoon. I think it's certainly a lot. Good morning, even. I think it's certainly a lot easier for Donald Trump to do that type of a policy there than it would be for Keir Starmer, even if he wanted to do it, Keir Starmer here. Impossible. But I think Trump, as always, what with his words, not very, very clear. What is a third world country? What is an asset? It's all going to come down to that. We all probably remember the Muslim ban that he in his first term. So I think that will be the thing where if he can actually put this into clear, consistent, actual legislation, because a third world country, what does that mean in this day and age? And I think that's the problems he's going to have. He's also going to have a lot of problems, I think, when it looks at various areas, there's going to be lots of challenges, but he's obviously a very determined president.
Yes, exactly, David. And this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, we saw in his first term that there was he brought out quite quickly a Muslim country ban, as it was dubbed, at least, where he was concerned about immigration from, places he would describe as third world countries. How do we define that term? Because this is one thing that's really set the left of X on fire today when we use the word third world country. How would we define that?
I think it's very difficult now. And I think when you've got someone like Trump with the amount of power that he has at the moment, is he going to, we know he's friends with the ruler of Saudi. The ruler of Saudi is known around the world for as many bad things, a human rights tyrant, a dictator, similar in the UAE. He's also friends with people in the UAE. We would, in 50 odd years ago or a few years ago, they would be classed as third world countries. They're not democratic. They're run by dictators. They've got appalling human rights records, but they're exceptionally wealthy and they're friends of Trump. Will they now be allowed in? So I think this is who's going to make those decisions. And I think that's when it starts to get a bit worrying, when you have politicians deciding areas like that, who can come into the country and who can't, with unchecked power. I think that's the worry, because how do we define a third world country these days? Is it on the gross domestic product? Is it on their laws, their human rights? Is it if they're a democracy? Well, how do we define that? And I think that's an impossibility, really. And the fact that I think Trump obviously has, like I said, a lot of friends that are a lot of very bad people, dictators and despots around the world. Will they suddenly become the first world?
One of the paradigms that Trump referred to in his tweet was about being compatible with Western civilization. But of course, one of the principal values of Western civilization is respect for the rule of law. And I think most people would agree that it's perfectly legitimate for the government to change the law in terms of numbers of immigration, salary caps, things like that. But one of the things that Trump seems to want to do is, he says, denaturalize people who have immigrant backgrounds who break the law. Do you think there's an ethical or even a Western case for removing citizenship from people once we've already given it to them?
I think Miriam, I think that is such a dangerous, slippery slope to open up, because who makes those decisions? On what basis? I mean, I certainly don't want a politician that's elected on popularity or unpopularity, in the case of perhaps our current government, making a decision on whether or not someone who is existingly a British national is able to stay or not. I think that's a very, very dangerous thing to open up. There should be a complete process involving the courts, the judiciary, and obviously the legislation at the time. But I think if we just suddenly allow politicians to put in place a process where they can decide who can and who cannot be at any particular time be a national of that country, that's dangerous.
Thank you for joining us, David Hay, human rights lawyer there. Thank you very much. I just want to really bring attention to a post that was written by the Department of State in the 21st of November, because they actually sent a message to us and to European leaders. They said, today the State Department instructed US embassies to report on the human rights implications and public safety impacts of mass migration. Mass migration is a human rights concern. Western nations have endured crime waves, terror attacks, sexual assault and displacement of communities. US officials will urge governments to take bold action. They are getting more involved, the Americans, on this issue. They aren't shying away from it now, and I think this crisis in America has only spurred them to take the action they were probably going to take in a matter of weeks' time. There we go.
I agree. Although it's not as if America does not have an awful lot of internal problems of its own. And I think we should be aware that the Americans do act ruthlessly in their own national interest. And why shouldn't they? Of course we should. But I don't think we should always just assume that they want the best for Western civilization.
Yeah, I like this. I like this administration. I think they've done more. They've done more to highlight these big issues that are really impacting.
They have, but then you look at, for example, Trump's policy over Ukraine. Of course, he wants to end the war. I truly believe that. But if you look at some of the ways he wants to do that, is to basically do a deal to make sure that America gets all the profit from Ukraine, or half the profit from Ukraine's minerals, and make sure that the Europeans carry on buying all our weapons from the US. Now, that is absolutely in the US's national interest. Is it in the West's interest?
Well, maybe we should elect some strong leaders. How about that? Get a good government in, get some strong leadership in, and we won't have to face that problem. That would be my answer to that, but there we go.
I agree.
Only a few weeks left, though, until Christmas, and time's running out for you to enjoy it all on us. 40 grand tax-free cash, 1 grand to spend in your favourite supermarket, and a GB News goodie bag too. It's all be in time for the big day, so here's all the details to make sure you don't miss out.
There's just 27 days until Christmas, and it's the final day to see how you can enjoy it on us. That's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 fantastic. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family, the tree and decorations. £1,000 in vouchers to buy a slap-up Christmas lunch at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. Plus, we're going to get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, up next, find out how satellite spies, yes, satellite spies, are going to be used to enforce the government's new mansion tax raid.
We'll be going through that and more with Andy Williams and Dr. Renee Honderkamp. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 27 minutes past 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam.
This Christmas, we are putting on a really exciting event and we want lots of you there too.
Yes, on Saturday the 13th of December, you're invited to join the GB News family for our Carols by Candlelight concert. For your chance to be with us, you can apply for tickets by scanning the QR code that's on your screen right now or by going to gbnews.com/carols. So the concert's going to be recorded on the 13th of December, but it will be broadcast on Christmas Eve.
And I will play it for you, I'm sure of it, during my show on Christmas Eve.
Baby George might be Jesus and Emily Mary.
Oh, well, there you go. What does that make Patrick?
Joseph.
Oh,
well, yeah, OK, good point. Good point.
Bring your own.
That's the story. I was ready to scratch up my notes. It's either that or I haven't had enough sleep, which is more than likely. We're here with our fantastic panel, Dr. Renee and Andy Williams. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What should we talk about first? Satellites are spying on people, Renee. What is this? More Orwellian Labour policy?
Look, it's another policy that's not been very well thought through because it's going to raise a measly 400 million, but it's going to cost them a fortune to revalue all these homes. And you can't do this by satellite. They're going to try, but every home has a different value depending on its condition, what's inside it, how it's been looked after. This is all a nonsense, and it's just more big government that Labour love. Nanny state, we are going to take what we can from you.
Yeah, Andy, there's a real risk here, I think, that this gets chucked into an artificial intelligence machine and that everyone's houses are going to be done by a robot, because I think for one person to go through all of this data would take, well, more time than we would really like the civil service to be spending on it.
Yeah, and the civil service aren't renowned for being massively productive, so it would take some time. I mean, what is really frustrating about this is it's a huge missed opportunity to blow up council tax, which, you know, we have people paying council tax on April 1991 valuations.
Crazy.
That's 4 months before I was born. Like, why are they not Labour should have taken the opportunity of this massive majority to look at the whole tax system, blow it up and start it again. And if they'd done it in one go and said there'll be winners and there'll be losers, but you'd get one package overall and totally redesign the tax system instead. This budget was another example of making it more complicated. I mean, I don't think this is by any means the worst thing that was in the budget, but I don't think it makes masses of sense either.
But you shouldn't be paying council tax on the value of your house, because if you've got 4 adults living in a 3-bedroom semi in North London and 4 adults living in a 3-bedroom semi in, you know, Doncaster, they don't use any less services in Doncaster. They don't use any less schools or roads or anything else.
Yeah.
It should be nothing to do with the value of the house. It should be on the number of working adults in it.
And the other thing is that council tax doesn't pay for what people think it pays for anymore. It was designed to pay for, as you said, roads, bin collections, and you often hear people say, well, I'm paying 200, 300 quid a month and my bins are only collected every other week. It all goes on adult and child social care, more than half of it.
Another problem with it that's being pointed out is that it's a bit like the tax thresholds. When they're introduced, the high rate tax threshold was just for the very, very wealthy, the top 5% of earners. But these things get frozen and drag other people in. So if the value gets frozen at 2 million, or even if it gets brought down, you could see that actually it's not just mansions in there anymore, it's ordinary people's homes.
Well, it's a double whammy. It is already, in London, it's already ordinary people's homes, let me tell you. But the other thing is that they will, as you rightly say, freeze the threshold, but increase the amount.
Exactly. Andy, can we talk about this story in the Daily Mail? A heroic fireman has been disciplined. I can't believe this. It's just bonkers, isn't it? Disciplined for letting colleagues say fireman. He's lost his unfair dismissal claim. Are we just reading... Are we taking this too much at face value here? Is there more... Because obviously he was encouraged to use the term firefighter rather than fireman. Am I missing something? Please tell me I'm missing something, because apparently he was overseeing an openly sexist workplace, which included failing to challenge staff who used the term fireman instead of firefighter.
Yeah, I hate these stories. But, I mean, it's a classic Mail story, right? So it's minimising something...
Or do you hate the policy? There's a big difference.
No, because I think Renee's hit the nail on the head. Like, this isn't why this guy was fired.
Right,
Let's
that's
be
why
clear.
I wanted to know.
Like, he obviously is overseeing a horrible misogynistic culture, and this is one aspect of it. So what the way this story is written up is designed for people to read it and go, well, there's a load of woke nonsense, when actually it's just somebody who's a horrible boss.
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, I would be really upset if he was running a really happy team and everybody was inclusive and somebody took umbrage at using the word fireman, because I think that's ridiculous. But this story doesn't look like that. It does look like it was a horrible environment for women. Right. There aren't many women firefighters, so I'm sure that there's more to this. But I think on this one, Andy's right, and I don't often say it.
No. In which case, we'll take it. We'll take that. What about couples who drink together, stay together, Renee?
I like this story because it makes sense, doesn't it? That if one of you is a complete, teetotaler and a horse drinker, and the other one likes 2 bottles of wine a night, you can see why that marriage wouldn't work. But apparently, it doesn't matter if you abstain or if you drink 2 bottles of wine a night. If you both do it, you're going to stay together. It makes sense, and I quite like the idea of people being compatible on all levels.
Well, there's certainly lots of drinking will go on at Christmas, no doubt. And if you're not feeling festive already, I understand that our Christmas trees in the studio are being decorated.
They are.
Yeah,
as we speak.
Right
you can see it behind Andy in the camera, actually. just. We'll get it in the studio soon, we promise.
And they are going to look splendiferous because the baubles are glorious.
Oh, Monday, apparently. Monday, it's going to be very Christmassy in here.
I'm glad we haven't started too early. Wow. Well, thank you so much to our panel for joining us. Lots more to come on the show, but here is your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much. The top story, some breaking news. A robber who kicked and punched a pensioner before taking off with a box of cornflakes and a cottage pie has been jailed for life for his murder. 87-year-old John Mackey was targeted by Peter Augustine after he visited a co-op store in North London on May the 6th. The Labour government's facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. French police are reportedly going to start stepping up intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel, following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations. And Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. It comes a day after an Afghan national is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C., one of whom sadly died. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more from me in half an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Right, well, up at noon, good afternoon, Britain, with Tom and Dawn. Tom, your whiteboard's been taken away from you today.
I'm going to seize it back.
You're going to get it back?
To seize it back.
I'm looking, as I say, it's the favourite part of the day.
Mainly because I've got a 1-minute explainer that we've been planning.
This is a really good one with great diagrams.
I've been working on the diagrams all morning.
What are you going to explain to us?
There has been, and I think this has been massively underreported, the idea that there was a black hole to start with. So this idea that back in September, we were all told there's this big black hole, productivity's gone down, the Chancellor's going to need to find billions in tax rises. And she even gave that big press conference saying we're going to have to do all these tax rises. It turns out now, we learned from the OBR, that in between talking about that black hole and when she gave the press conference, on the 31st of October, the OBR actually told the Chancellor tax receipts were way higher than she expected. £31 billion because of inflation. £31 billion of extra tax receipts. Now, that more than made up for the black hole. In fact, that meant that tax receipts were £16 billion higher, even taking account for the productivity downgrade. And that meant that actually every single tax rise that the Chancellor decided on this week, it wasn't necessary.
In other words,
it was a choice to spend more on things like benefits.
Yeah, but the diagrams are brilliant. Just look at the diagrams. I mean, come on.
No, I'm really looking forward to this because I don't think we talk about the mathematics of this enough. And of course, so much happens, doesn't it, in the lead up to these budgets? Now, so much is leaked. We don't know what we should believe.
Every single thing was leaked. There wasn't a single surprise in that budget. We are also talking to the budget. I've got an exclusive chat with Kemi Badenoch.
Brilliant.
We are talking mansplaining even, and we are talking her relationship with Rachel. What's going on there?
Yeah, there's been some criticism that should she have gone a little bit easier on the Chancellor? Should she have been a bit more... I think there was one interviewer who suggested that Kemi Badenoch should have been a bit more kind because the Chancellor's a woman.
Yeah, well, I had this debate last night, and frankly, I think we treat them as if she were a man, if she were a woman, it's the same thing.
But
people just want to be held accountable.
Do you think, though, I think a good question is, if Kemi Badenoch was a man, if it was a man in her position, would she have got away with...
That is such a good point.
She wouldn't know, hard line against each other. She wouldn't. It would have looked like bullying.
It would have looked completely
There is a
like
different
bullying.
dynamic between men and women. That's just a fact. So how we talk about it is quite...
Yeah, and there's no way a man could have done the mansplaining attack in the same way that Kemi Badenoch did.
Patronising.
Yeah, he would have looked like he was mansplaining.
Interesting gender dynamics here. Well, all that coming up and more at midday. But up next is Black Friday. And our technology editor is trying to find Alex a brand new razor to avoid any baby face mishaps.
Oh my goodness! Don't tune in. Don't tune in. No, do tune in. This is Breaking News on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a windy day out there today, particularly towards the northwest. That wind bringing plenty of heavy showers in, again, particularly to the northwest, but some drier and brighter spells also in between the spells of wet weather. We've got low pressure to the north, bringing this strong west to northwesterly wind, although the winds peaking during the morning and then easing into the afternoon across northwest Scotland. Still a blustery day. And the showers merging to longer spells of heavy rain across the north and west of Scotland, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland. Also showers moving through much of England and Wales, but interspersed by some sunshine. Feeling cool in the wind, however, temperatures above average in the south, closer to average in the north, and that means we will see some mountain snow for Scotland as these bands of rain move through, but heavy rain at lower levels, even some hail for the north and west of Scotland in some of the heavier showers as we end the day. This spell of rain pushing into the north and west of Northern Ireland, a heavy downpour for many, and for much of England and Wales during the evening, a quieter break from the weather with clear spells for many and mostly dry, but we have got the next system soon pushing rain into parts of the southwest and Wales overnight. Those heavy outbreaks of rain moving swiftly across the southern third of the UK, particularly heavy across parts of Wales and the southwest along with stronger winds. I think drier for Scotland and Northern Ireland, frost in places particularly for the north of Scotland, albeit with some showers into the far north. But it's across the southern half of the UK, particularly in England and Wales, where we're going to see the wettest weather during Saturday morning. Spells of heavy rain moving their way eastwards across the country, replaced by showers later on, along with gusty winds, clearer and colder for Scotland and Northern Ireland.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 11:41. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom with Alex and Miriam.
Now, it's the biggest shopping day of the year. Black Friday sales, the perfect time to bag yourself a bargain. And we are with GB News' technology editor, Aaron Brown, all morning. Aaron, you've been looking for deals. I did ask you if you could find me a razor that doesn't, sort of the clipper doesn't fall off the top, so I have that baby face again. Any luck so far, Aaron?
Yes, I've got something for you here. On John Lewis, the Philips One Blade is down £20 to $39.99. Don't buy it from John Lewis, though. If you go to Amazon, they've knocked an extra £5 off the same model to $34.49. That's the cheapest it's ever been.
There you go.
That's what I'd recommend.
I know what I'll be getting straight after this show finishes.
In case you have the same issue as before, though, and take off too much facial hair, Amazon also does sell, you'll be very pleased to know, some fake beards for you as well. Just under £5, so no one would ever have to know if it happened again.
No Black Friday deal, though. Yeah, I think the top left, I think I should wear that in my next Alex Armstrong Tonight
Oh,
show.
the white one, because on Christmas Day, you could be Santa.
Yeah, right. I really appreciate this morning, guys. I promise I will be back here next Friday.
Putting in an HR complaint.
Yeah.
What are the kind of main big-ticket items that people really go for Black Friday?
So, yeah, we've talked before about, are these genuine deals? Are they not? There's obviously plenty of deals that are at their lowest ever price. Some, to be honest, are the same price as they've been 6 months earlier or 6 months afterwards. What makes Black Friday unique, though, is the timing just before Christmas. So it's a perfect time to do some Christmas shopping. So things like Lego has got a load of Black Friday deals on at the moment. The Lego store has exclusive sets. So if you've got kids that are looking for unique sets, there's loads on there. And they've got a loyalty scheme. And on some of these sets, they're offering 4 times points. And then you can cash in those points on free gifts from there as well.
Wow.
If you just want a pure discount, though, Smith's Toys is the place to go. They've got up to £200 off Lego sets. And if your kid is into more digital types of games, then the Sony PlayStation 5 is down to its lowest ever price at $289 at the moment. That's cheaper on John Lewis, £10 cheaper than the Sony online store. So that's the place to go, not direct to Sony.
Well, there you go. You can buy some good deals for Christmas. Aaron, thank you so much for sharing all those tips and tricks with us and everyone at home. Let's cross now to Bristol, where GB News national reporter Jack Carson is getting your gifts ready at Amazon Distribution Centre. Jack, what's going on there?
Well, your razor could be anywhere in this building, Alex. Of course, we're here now. We've shown you all morning, haven't we? The different parts, the different sections that your Black Friday deals go through. Richard Griffiths, the general manager, is still with us. Is this a slammer? This is a slam. So what is this part of the process?
Yeah, so we're here, and behind me right now you can see our slam process, and it's the last process in the flow of customer shipment out of this building. So this is where we're applying the customer shipment label to the many thousands of boxes that will be processed throughout the course of today at this building. And from here, the shipments make their way onto our conveyance, miles of conveyance across the building, and into our Brew Prime trailers, onto our customers and the delivery stations.
And again, there's technology involved here, because when the sticker goes onto the box, the actual machine doesn't even touch the box.
No, there's a huge amount of technology in play behind this, from understanding, is the right item in the box, is it the right weight, is the right box being used, and then blowing, using air pressure to blow the shipment label onto the box to ensure that there's no damage to that box in that process.
I mean, we are seeing, probably in the course of the 10 minutes that we've been stood here, I mean, there have been thousands probably of boxes going by. I mean, just how busy is a day like Black Friday for you here at Amazon?
We've shipped millions, tens of millions of units so far this week, and today is no exception. Millions of units going out the doors of our buildings across the country, all to our customers as part of our Black Friday event.
And of course, they're all different sizes, so I guess that's where the technology comes in with knowing the size of the box.
Correct. We use systems to profile the inventory, make sure it goes in the right size box, and then apply the sticker and the label exactly where it's needed on each of our shipments.
All right, Richard Griffiths, thank you so much for explaining that kind of process, because, here in the UK on the Black Friday period, £6.4 billion is spent by us. The average person spending well over £200, and when you actually put it down, then into where it's spent, is it in the shops, is it online? 4 in every £5 is spent online during this period. So that's why places here at Amazon, you know, I mean, you just see from behind us the scale, you know, just how big this warehouse is. The thousands have been talking about, millions of orders that are processed here, you know, during this day. This is exactly, you know, where all of the process goes on to get those Black Friday deals to you, including, and I'm sure somewhere in this building, Alex, is your razor that you're so desperate for.
That's great, Jack. We were just talking about, of course, amazing stuff you can get for Christmas, including Lego. We've saw here Claudette has said up to £200 off a Lego set these days. Crikey, how much is Lego these days? So true. We were just, Miriam and I were just discussing that and seeing all those boxes there with Jack. And Amazon's also kind of like Santa's grotto these days, because that's where we all do our online shopping for Christmas.
And
well, most of us do.
Buy anything there, can't you?
Yeah, quite incredible
I mean,
stuff.
I totally... I really feel for high street shops because Amazon is able to undercut them. But then on the other hand, the delivery people just find so convenient, don't they?
Indeed it does. Well, look, up next we have some breaking news about a 76-year-old British passenger who is missing after falling overboard from a cruise ship off the coast of Tenerife. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heavy rain across parts of Greece due to Storm Adele is now moving into Turkey. We could see some high rainfall totals building up. There's going to be some thunder mixed in, even some large hail as well. Further west and a few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy, elsewhere mostly dry. Much of Spain actually largely dry, similar for southern France, but some wet weather pushing into northwestern parts of Spain and also Portugal, and that will feed further southeastwards through the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. And some breaking news. A British passenger is missing after falling overboard from a cruise ship off the coast of Tenerife. A search is currently underway, and our national reporter Will Godley joins us with more details. Will, it sounds like a tragic incident. Can you give us any more information?
Yeah, deeply troubling news coming out from the Canary Islands, where the Spanish Coast Guard leading this search now, more than 24 hours on from when that man overboard alarm first sounded. It sounded at 9:48 yesterday morning when a 76-year-old British man went overboard. The cruise ship was about 15 miles off the coast of Tenerife, off its western side. Local media in Spain reporting that the cruise ship was travelling from Madeira to a smaller Canary island called La Gomera. Now, the cruise ship in question is operated by TUI, of course, a very famous tourism company. It's called the Marella Explorer 2, and they've given us a statement saying they're deeply saddened and their thoughts are with the individual and their families.
Oh, Will, thank you so much for bringing that, and I'm sure you'll keep us updated on that story as we get more of it. Thank you very much, Will. Well, listen, we want to say a big thank you to Maria, who has been looking after us here in the studio for many years. Now, here she's just coming in now. It's her last day today. Go on, Maria, get in here. It's too late. The camera's already on you. Maria, we just want to say a big thank you while Tom and Dawn are also getting into the studio as well. Big thank you for looking after us. Maria does incredible work. She brings us our coffees, our tea. She makes sure the studio's running in order. Honestly, Maria, thank you so much for all the hard work you've put in. Let's give Maria a big round of applause. Thank you, Maria. She's so professional, she's already gone back to work.
Absolutely. And we have all seen what Tom Harwood's having for lunch. Well, that's it from Britain's Newsroom. So up next, we have Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Dawn.
That's right, much still to come here on Good Afternoon Britain, including an interview with Kemi Badenoch, Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, indeed, and we have got an exclusive for Mark White. Normally it's the other way round, but we've got a little surprise for him. You don't want to miss this one. Nor does he, to be honest with you.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, across parts of Scotland, it was a very windy night and there are more strong winds to come as we go through this morning in particular. We're talking gusts of 60, 70 miles per hour, perhaps even up to 75 miles per hour around some northern and western coasts. The wind's easing a little bit as we go into the afternoon, but staying pretty blustery and some hefty showery bursts of rain, some hail mixed in with this, even a few rumbles of thunder and some sleet and snow over higher ground. Elsewhere, we're talking sunny spells and some bursts of showery rain pushing through, and temperatures in the south still a touch above average for the time of year, but markedly lower than they were yesterday. Then as we go through later on into this evening, still blustery, still quite windy across many parts of Scotland, particularly towards the northeast. Orkney and Shetland seeing some strong gusts as we go through the evening. Plenty more showery bursts of rain, sleet and hill snow pushing through as well, and also showery rain feeding in across much of Northern Ireland too. A slightly drier story across much of England and Wales, albeit a few bursts of rain over some parts of northern England and a band of showers clearing away from the southeast. So some drier, clearer weather for a time as we go through this evening and overnight, but quite quickly we are then going to see some more wet and windy weather spilling in from the southwest, pushing its way northeastwards across much of central southern England and Wales. Further north, a few showers still, but some clear spells, and here a touch of frost quite likely in some rural spots. Further south, with the unsettled weather pushing through, it is going to be a little bit milder. And then it's a wet and windy day across the southern third, maybe half of the UK as the weather system makes its way northeastwards. Watch out for strengthening winds as we go through tomorrow around some eastern coastal parts of England in particular. Could be some strong gusts here, and the heavy rain could build up, causing some issues as well. Further north, a brighter, drier picture, but quite chilly here as well.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people.